Hey, happy Venus Friday. Hey, Friday is sacred to Freya, the Norse goddess of love and joy and pleasure. So, Venus Friday, hello, TGIF. God, has it been a last week or so? I've had a number of people want me to wade in on, the attempted assassination, and then this morning we had Microsoft and the global tech outage, and just just understand that the work I've been doing with Tavish Carter called Our Raw Material, essentializing astro astrology and our raw material, astro RM, giving the essential energies and how they fit our bodies and our ego soul balance or our soul ego balance. And now, how does that deal with former President Trump? Well, he is an embodiment of ego. The individual separate identity that an ego is the part of ourselves that lives or thrives on fear. So, what we're learning through all of this, whether you conspiracy or not, but just pause and think, even if it were a stunt, there's still fear that could go wrong. And it's also the aspect of how do we look at where we've come from as a nation, understanding that we're 248 years old. Pluto takes 250 years to go around the solar system. So we're going through a deconstruction, a transformation of our systems. Capricorn. Can you name a system or institution that hasn't been transformed fundamentally since 2008? Feel that. Last 16 years with Pluto being in Capricorn, he goes back in on September 1st to November 19th. So our next election is about our coming from, are we going to tie a black handkerchief around our eyes, which is a typical Capricorn thing to do, go into denial, go into this, you versus me, and let's not get into civil war and second civil war. Now, now understand, on this week, Uranus, the unexpected, the fool in the tarot deck, the trickster, conjoined with Mars in Taurus, warrior energy. Mars is the embodiment of how our ego moves in the disbelief that it is a separate agent. You would have thought with the pandemic when we're in this together that we would have moved beyond this illusion of separateness. Well, we still have lessons to learn as a collective. Our individual lessons are, how do you see our system? How do you see this individual, this former president, and what feelings does he invoke within you? And how do you other others? How do you look at situations where you feel you have rights and privileges? Because those are ego manifestations. From the soul's perspective, it's all evolution. It's all lessons. Everything may not happen so much for a reason, but everything happens for our evolution of consciousness. And consciousness is based on the energy of love, of unity, of connection. God, I've been playing the song by Sister Sledge, Easier to Love. Maybe I'll put that in the link. It's a 40-year-old song at least. And, they were a disco group, we are family. I got all my sisters with me. And then once disco fell out of favor, everything disco was burned up in the early 80s with Reagan, and then country music took over. So in our country, we tend to do this, that when you see, this freedom of spirit, whether that was black movement, civil rights movement, which led to the second wave of feminism, which led to, I'm coming out, hello, in the APA Psychological Association in 1973, December said that homosexuality was no longer a mental illness. These things happened in the 70s. And so there was a soulful, it's still my favorite decade for music. So there is this aspect of the integration, the inclusiveness. And let's just be clear, we can use a little bit of that right now. So when you think about your others, whether they're MAGA, whether they're whatever they may be, it's important to come from a soul unified perspective because it is easier to love, and the ego, our minds and intellect wants to get caught up in what could have or what did or what might have happened, but feel it energetically, and understand that we still haven't learned how we are our brothers and sisters keeper, and how we, by really looking inwardly and breathing and understanding the rooted qualities of our soul. Because, since 1953, with the genome being discovered, we realize how much we are more similar than dissimilar. So, Mars goes into Gemini tomorrow afternoon. It will enter into President Biden's seventh house of open enemies. So you can expect over these next week to 10 days, around the beginning of the following week, July 30th, if not before, for more calls, more openness about having an open Democratic convention. Again, from a soul perspective, he did promise us just one term. But lots of lessons, people. Peace. And sometimes it's easier to love. Well, often, almost always.